overeating. That's it. That's the video. Bye. Hi, welcome to a bonus Tuesday video. I hope you like the new video intro. As you can see, I'm hoping to update on Fridays and sometimes on Tuesdays, depending if I have like another topic I want to talk about or another kind of video I want to do. Fridays will always be my update on how things are going. Tuesdays will be something else. So this Tuesday, I just wanted to do a video kind of further to my introduction post with a little bit more about my history with weight and with food. I have notes on my computer, so if I look down, that's what that is. So basically, up until about age 7, I was pretty normal in terms of size, maybe a little on the skinny side. And then at some point between 7 and 8, I kind of transitioned into being more chubby, let's say. Not entirely sure why it happened at that age. I just know that looking back on pictures from my childhood, that's when that sort of body shift happened. My first experience with trying to lose weight, I was 10. I was at that point apparently already in like the 80th or 90th percentile for my age and height and weight. And my doctor was a little concerned, and then my mom had a really awkward conversation with me about things that I could potentially do to help the situation. That conversation didn't really go well because honestly, I just felt singled out, like I was the bad kid because I was the one who, wasn't healthy. I felt a lot of shame around that, sort of like I was being singled out and I would have to go it alone if I was going to make these choices. Now, I did end up sort of going it alone in that around that same time, maybe a little bit after, my mom joined Weight Watchers, maybe because she realized that I wasn't the only one who needed to make health changes in the family. And I remember sort of taking her booklet and not going to any meetings or anything, but like reading her booklet and figuring out how to calculate how many points were in food and trying to calculate how many points I was eating and then trying to eat less. I didn't know anything about nutrition because I was 10 and all my information was coming from this Weight Watchers book. But I did try and make some changes, and I think at the same time I read some sort of diet book and tried to go really low fat, which, that macronutrient ratios are a thing for another time, but my 10-year-old self didn't really understand. I did, I think, end up losing some weight around that time through a combination of Weight Watchers and, my mom working to cook healthier meals for the family and stuff like that. And it's really weird because I have a memory of some member of my extended family, I think maybe an aunt or something, at a family event talking about how much better everyone in my family looked while I was in the room in earshot, and like I overheard it and feeling like simultaneously proud of myself because I'd made a change and kind of like backhand insulted because I didn't know if she meant that I had looked bad before or that she was like downplaying my own personal effort into it. And obviously this was sort of a comment that has stuck with me. And I'm thinking about it on like a distance level right now, or else I'd start to get emotional in the video. And it kind of bothers me because I look at 10-year-olds and stuff that I know and I'm like, why would you say some sort of like vague compliment that's sort of offhand, not directly to them, not really directly about them, in earshot of a 10-year-old? That's a messed up thing to say around a kid. Don't do that. Pro tip. Don't talk about kids like that when they're around. Anyway, So by the time I was in high school, I had given up on all that sort of weight lossy sort of stuff, and in my high school there were vending machines, and I remember very clearly either pretending that I had forgotten my lunch and then having to buy lunch at the vending machine. Even though there was a cafeteria with cafeteria food, all the time I would just go to the vending machine and get like a chips and a chocolate bar and a bottle of soda. And I remember doing that a lot. And then one time, I think my mom noticed that I was forgetting my lunch a lot. And so then I would start taking my lunch with me. And then either pretending to my friends that I had forgot my lunch and buying vending machine food for lunch, or eating my lunch and then secretly getting vending machine food. And that's sort of when my like obsession with trying to get junk food anytime I could and then secretly eating really started. And when I was in grade 12, that was my second major attempt with weight loss, because my brother got engaged and my mom joined a gym and my sister joined a gym and I joined a gym, and it was like one of those circuit training gyms. I managed to lose about 10 pounds from 175 to 165, and I remember that very clearly. I also then got really frustrated because once I hit 165, I pretty much just stayed there for months and months. And really, that's because my eating habits hadn't changed at all. All of my secret eating, all of my overeating was still happening. In retrospect, I feel like losing 10 pounds was actually like more of an achievement because I did it despite my food issues. The summer after high school and after my brother's wedding, I ended up quitting the gym because partly I was really frustrated about being on a plateau. Partly because I had a summer job and I didn't have a lot of time to go to the gym because my schedule was kind of all over the place, and partly because I was going to go to a different city for university in the fall. But mostly because I was just really frustrated with the plateau. Now, university. Once I got to university, that's when my eating really started to spiral out of control, because now I had all this newfound freedom. I was living by myself in a basement suite, so I basically had nobody that would like see me buying or eating a bunch of junk food and call me on it because I was by myself. And so I only had my own brain to try and stop me from, making less than healthy choices for my food. And that didn't work very well. Now, at the time, I didn't really call it binge eating because I didn't realize that's what that was. I just thought at the time I basically had no self-control around, especially certain kinds of food, but around food in general. And I remember really, really struggling, like at the store, to not buy it in the first place, and then buying it anyway, or buying it the next day at like a convenience store, struggling once I got it home, telling myself in the store that, this time I can prove to myself that I can eat it like a normal person. I'm not going to eat the whole jar of Nutella. And then I would eat the whole jar of Nutella even after it started tasting absolutely disgusting, because I was just so angry with myself for not having self-control again that I would just keep eating until it was gone, because clearly I can't control myself, so I just have to have it gone. And so that's what happened my first year of university. Then after my first year of university, I transferred back to my hometown, started living at home again with my parents because it was cheaper and because I was changing my major. So then for the rest of university, I didn't really stop binge eating. I just went back to doing it in secret, trying to sneak food into my room so that I could eat it there. And at some point around then, eating around people got really uncomfortable. It already was somewhat by high school, because that's when I started secretly eating. I remember being at band camp and like feeling like I couldn't get seconds because nobody else was getting seconds, and sort of like very sort of intense awareness of what and how much other people were eating, and this sort of shame that my own desires didn't match that. And that sort of just intensified throughout university. Although at some point during university, I decided and discovered the worlds of fat acceptance and body positivity. So my way of practicing body positivity was essentially to try and look at myself in the mirror or look at pictures of me and just deny any impulses or thoughts that came up that said I was uncomfortable with how I looked, that said I shouldn't have to look like that I shouldn't have to live like this. Basically, I decided that any sort of negative emotion to do with myself was bad, and that I wasn't going to entertain it, and I was just going to forcibly pretend it didn't exist. Now, obviously, this doesn't work. Trying to get away from negative and unproductive emotions by just like forcibly trying to get away from negative and unproductive emotions by just sort of forcibly pushing them away and pretending they don't exist doesn't work. And I have since learned that it's better to like acknowledge them, and then you can let them go and not judge them and like just react like that, because that's how you actually, move past them. Also, partly it didn't work because body positivity only goes so far when part of your discomfort with your body is gender dysphoria. So anyway, that happened, and I remember part of that also meant I believed that stepping on the scale was like this sort of awful thing and I shouldn't have to do it, and no weight shame, no body shame. And body positivity is great in certain contexts and in certain ways of practicing it. But when it comes to the point where I'm very tearfully like asking my mother to look at my weight on the scale because I need to input my weight for an intake form at an oral surgeon to get my wisdom teeth taken out because I have to go under general anesthesia, and they need to know medically how much I weigh so that they can get the right dose. At that point, it's really not so much of a helpful thing, or at least it's not being practiced in a very helpful way. Now, I did see what my mother entered into my oral surgery intake form. It was 205. So, at some point during university, over the course of university, I had gone from 165 when I finished high school to 205, 40 pounds over the course of university. That's 10 pounds a year. A little less because I did 5 years of university. Anyway, that didn't really change my habits, knowing that I was now over 200 pounds. But it did sort of change my attitude towards the scale. I kind of realized that it was just a piece of information. So you could say that helped a little bit. Over the next few years, from when I graduated university in 2011 until sort of mid-2014, I kind of kept with the whole binging, and then trying to say I wouldn't do it again, and then occasionally I wouldn't for a few weeks. I'd drop 10 pounds of water weight, and then I'd start again and regain it, and just kind of fluctuated between about 190 and 205 for the next 3 years. Basically maintained, because between my binging and what I ate between, I guess that's how much I was eating for my body and my exercise level. The real moment of change that I have experienced recently in terms of my attitude towards food and nutrition came in mid-2014, almost by surprise. My mom had been diagnosed with breast cancer, And I had a very sort of tearful, emotional conversation with her while everything was still up in the air and I was still wrestling with like all of the weight of that diagnosis. And I think what I was trying to do in that conversation, what I set out to do at the start of the conversation, was come out to her. But then I chickened out and I ended up saying I was uncomfortable in my own skin, and through that ended up admitting to myself that for the first time that, I wasn't satisfied with my body. All this attempts at forceful body positivity had not worked, and I did not like myself. And saying that out loud, even though it wasn't what I was trying to do in the conversation, I think ended up helping, because it shifted how I thought about myself in my brain, and it helped me come to a place where I could find that balance between knowing I'm not necessarily content with where I am, but I can accept it for what it is in the moment. And that let me start to change. Some other things that sort of facilitated that change were that I started cooking all of the food for my parents that year while my mom was going through treatment, which gave me a real sense of purpose, because I was really helping with something like bigger than myself. And I started tracking my food in my fitness pal, because at first it was to help my dad, because he was tracking his food and he was getting frustrated with it. And I had experimented with my fitness pal a couple times during, my years of losing and gaining the same 10 pounds. And so I was like, well, since I'm doing all the cooking, I'll just enter all of the meals and then you can just steal it from my diary. And initially I was just going to enter my dinners, but then it just got easier to enter everything that I was eating. And I think having a sense of purpose for something bigger than myself helped too, because I think that's part of what basically gave me a reprieve for almost a year from binge eating urges. I can't explain it in any other way other than that. Finally, I had something that was more important to me than eating junk food. And yeah, so over 10 months, I lost 80 pounds. I went from just over 200 to about 130. And then my mom finished her round of treatment, and I stopped cooking so much for the family, and other things happened, and life got busy again, and I kind of lost that sense of purpose a little bit. And then also my mental health took quite a bit of a nosedive for a few reasons. Anyway, so then from 2016 was kind of a hell year for me, because that was the year that my mental health was just in the gutter. And I regained probably 20 to 30 pounds over the course of 2016. So then I was around 260, 270 for most of 2017 and 2018. During which point I wasn't focusing so much on my eating, and I was focusing a lot more on trying to get my emotional and mental health back under a managed state, because I felt emotionally awful. And then once I kind of got that managed, then I started to focus on the binge eating, and it was easier said than done. And in some ways I would keep doing it, and it was really annoying, because during 2015, when I lost all that weight, I got really interested in nutrition. So I've been doing reading like since then, up on like journals and books and all that sort of stuff about nutrition. And it was really frustrating, because once I started trying to focus again on getting my eating in check with all of this new emotional knowledge I had, I would be like, I know what I need to do and why I need to do it, but I can't. And I think it came down to the fact that I didn't have a sense of purpose bigger than my desire to eat junk. I didn't have a really strong why. And then the pandemic happened, and I don't know, I'm still trying to establish my personal inner sense of why to help with this current journey, but it just feels a little different to me because in my brain, right now, I can't put my finger on what's shifted, but my thoughts have shifted, and I am thinking that there is, you know, something bigger out there than just eating massive amounts of food until I'm sick, you know. And so, this YouTube channel is going to be part of that, because I think that's part of my why, is that I just want to be able to share, like, the things that I have learned, either nutritionally or emotionally or all that sort of stuff. And I have all this information, and having an outlet is part of something that's bigger than, you know, wanting to overeat. And so far, so good. It's been over 10 days. I'm into the double digits with no binge eating, which is great. And I'm still feeling pretty good. I know that I'm still going to want to binge at some points, but I'm really hoping that over the next few days, hopefully by Friday's episode, I can share with you, like, what my why is that is making me a lot more hopeful for this time around than for any of the other times since 2015 that I've tried to re-lose the weight that I've regained. And I think part of it is that I also am not really focused on the weight. I'm just like, you know what, I'm tired of feeling gross, and I want to have healthy habits, and I want to have healthy habits more than I want to taste lots of junk food. And that's my story. Thanks for watching. This has probably been pretty long, and we'll see you on Friday with a 2 weeks in update. Right. Sorry, this is the YouTube thing. I've got to tell you to like the video and comment down below and subscribe and hit the bell notification. If I hit 100 subscribers, I can get a custom URL, which is great because right now I don't know what my username URL is, so the only URL I have for my channel is the one that's like a million random letters. So please subscribe. You don't have to, but I would appreciate it.